Doc on the Run. We help injured runners run.
What is cortical thickening that precedes a stress fracture? Well, that's what we're talking about today on the Doc on the Run podcast. Now, I know there are a lot of different confusing things that you can hear about from your doctor or from an MRI report or an X-ray report or an ultrasound report when you're a runner and you get some aching pain that you think might be a stress fracture. And one of those findings that may be reported on your medical imaging study is a thing called cortical thickening. And I want to explain what that is so you can better understand it in case you happen to see it on an MRI report or your X-ray report or in your doctor's notes and you want to try to figure out what it really means. All right, let's talk about it. When you've got a bone, like let's say the tibia is basically shaped like this. You have the tibial plateau, or the part where you're in your knee and your femur sits on top of that and your kneecap sitting over there. And then the bone comes down, it gets skinnier, and then it widens again at your ankle, and there's a lump on the inside of your ankle. So if you're looking at this from the front, this would be the left, because your right one would be over here. And then you have the fibula bone on the outside, you have your talus bone sitting in here, and then your heel bone is underneath that. The cortex of the bone is the outer edge of the bone. So if you looked at a tube, let's say you look at a pipe, the cortex is this outer shell. So the cortex, when you look at it if you look at it straight in, this is what the cortex would look like. It would be this thick rim that's solid all the way around. If you look at it in this direction, like this way, well, this is what you see. You have a rim of bone on each side. If you're starting to get a stress fracture or stress reaction before a stress fracture, you get inflammation within the bone because the bone's getting stressed. And let's say it's getting stressed in this area. Well, it's getting stressed because you're applying too much stress to it. What does your body do when you do that? Your body tries to respond by making it stronger. What happens if you use a shovel all day? If you start digging ditches, you get thickened skin to try to protect you from the friction and the abrasion of shoveling dirt all day, right? So in the same way that you get thickness in the skin, you get thickness in the bone when you apply chronic stress to it. So if you're running and you think you have shin splints, but you're actually getting too much stress and you're getting a stress reaction, your body responds by trying to make the bone thicker. And that's what you get is cortical thickening. So sometimes on an X-ray, sometimes on an MRI or CT scan, you can actually see that the bone is getting thicker in that area where you're getting this increased stress applied. And so all it is that it's going to be the reverse color on an X-ray, because on an X-ray, the bones are white and the background is black. So you'd have to flip this to see it that way. But basically, it just looks thicker around that area. And on an MRI, you'll have inflammation within the bone. It'll be bright white in that area, but then the bone would actually be much thicker. On ultrasound, can't really see it so much because the ultrasound waves bounce off of the bone and don't go through the bone, so you can't really measure the thickness on an ultrasound quite as much as you could on an MRI, an X-ray, or a CT scan. A CT scan is basically just X-rays that are done with a computer to get you very specific detail. It looks a lot like an MRI. But that cortical thickening, you think that's a good thing. However, the increased blood flow in there can actually decrease the bone density. So it gets thicker, but it's weaker. And then you start getting a crack if you just ignore it. So that's what cortical thickening is. Hopefully this helps you understand a little bit more about that finding on your MRI or CT scan or X-ray study that you get from your doctor when you have an overtraining injury. If you want to learn more about stress fractures, the frameworks I use, the way that I think about it, the process that I use, the ways that you've got to, the strategies that you have to apply in your case when you have a stress fracture, whether you're working with a doctor or not, you can come check it out for free at docontherun.com/stress-fracture-masterclass. So go sign up and I'll see you inside.
Doc on the Run. We help injured runners run.